Okay, well there's our shape. I didn't carry on with the outlines. I want to do a lot of this painting just without the feeling of a camera looking over my shoulder. So I jumped ahead a little bit. And I'll do that at various stages, but I did want to show you this. You know, I'm pretty happy with the outline. It's got a lot of character. We'll try to do something similar here. You know, this, I laid one line in to begin with, which is where the water met the shoreline on the foreground land masses. But they're a little bit misaligned. This line is fairly parallel to the bottom of the canvas, maybe dropping a hint on the far right. This line, I've raised the right-hand side of it and dropped the left-hand side of it a little bit, so that when the painting goes in, you'll already have a barely noticeable but nonetheless existent sense that your eye will want to go this way, you know, or from here it'll come down this way. You'll know very clearly that you're in front, you know, this island is in, or this landmass is in front of this landmass, and you'll almost want to sort of wander a little bit, right? If this was in perfect line with this, you end up with very much of a fence with a break in it. Now there's a passageway, even though it's just a little bit askew. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it. So I've painted these two areas in quite dark. Well, got the outlines to the way I want them to be. Even when I'm going to shed some light on an area, even if I see that a part of a painting might be quite bright, quite light, sometimes I'll still wash it in very dark, because depending on the technique that I use, there is a chance this will be a brush painting. If it ends up being a painting with a brush, I want spaces between the brush strokes to appear to be quite dark, even if it's not actually outlining. The drama between the dark wash-in and the light spaces will give it strength, will give this area strength. If, and it's an if, but if this becomes a brush painting, the greatest light on the foliage on these islands, well, on these two land masses, will be around here, picking up this red. So the brush strokes will need to be very direct, very intentional, well organized, well thought out, and they'll be light against this dark. To the left, they'll be fairly dark against dark. No, dark against dark, really, you know, dark against darker isn't that dramatic, you know. But here, if I have some intense highlights on this bush, for example, you know, maybe some parts of these trees, maybe up into this tree, and on these rocks, the fact that I washed it in dark and I'm laying the paint on high value and high chroma will make things go boom. That's because I'm using a brush, but I'm using it to lay in the paint fairly thickly. It's not going to be, there's no thinners, there's no mediums, it's paint straight from the tube, mixed to my desired color, and laid on in an impasto-ish manner. Not really thick, but not thin either. Okay, onward and upward. So I've been using, for the outlining so far, ultramarine blue and raw umber. I've switched to cobalt blue and raw umber for this distant shoreline. Now it's still fairly dark, but I really want, even though it's a bit distant, I want this shoreline to be strong, because we have so much sky and such an obvious funnel dropping down. I need to slow the viewer's eye down. Yes, of course you want to go through there, but I don't want this to be too light, because we'd run into danger of getting into the values that'll be in the sky. Don't want to do that. So yeah, let's just You know what a peaceful person I am. I'm just building a bridge, you know, between these two warring factions. I want them to get along. Yeah. There we go. Something like that should work. I hope. Now, do we leave those rocks in there? No. It's too far away. But the first thing I should worry about is making sure I get that shoreline at least, you know, reasonably straight. And if I don't, well, you know, I can straighten it out later. Actually, I've already screwed it up. I'm using probably a bigger brush than I should for this kind of thing, but whatever. You know, I'll when I wash in the water, I'll take care of that. I don't know, I didn't measure it, but to me it looks as though I'm going up on the left with the water. But the truth is, my easel is standing, the floor that my easel is standing on actually dips down to the right a little bit. It's an old house. It was far from the best quality build out there. Okay, I'm still tempting myself to throw a little bit of rock in there. I'm not going to do it. Or, you know, shoreline rock. It's too far away. I shouldn't worry about it. Okay, let's just, you know, it looks pretty dark right now, but that's mostly because it's wet. Like fresh wet. It's cobalt blue. I know it's going to lighten up as it dries. So even though you don't see much color difference, you just kind of have to go by the brush strokes as far as where your lines are and your outlines are and what have you. So we'll keep them fairly horizontal here. And outlining this bit. And then let's go to some vertical ones. Because when you look way off in the distance, I think in this case anyways, I think it's going to help to have a few vertical lines showing. Or vertical brush strokes, not even lines. Just the general feel of the land. Okay, I'm going to add a hint of titanium white to what I just did. Just a hint. Well, you probably can't even see that right now, but you will. Or I will. Again, I don't have the best camera going, and I'm not going to buy a fancy camera for this. But you can see ever so slight a difference in the values, or I can, you know, as a guide, which I may or may not need. I don't know. Never hurts. Never hurts to give yourself little. Never hurts to give yourself little breadcrumbs here and there. You know, if you're feeling insecure about something, then just do it in more steps than you thought you were going to, and give yourself the benefit of additional information. Yeah, you know. Okay. This won't stop your eye by the time it's painted. It'll just slow it down. Okay. Now I have some cleaning up to do. So I know that I don't want to go with greens in this water yet. I believe that I would like to go with some raw umber as a wash-in. That might be a little bit dark. Let's add a little bit of white to it. This is just raw umber. Oh no, sorry. There's a bit of yellow ochre in there as well, and white. Yes, I'm being very careful with my wash-in because I'm using it to carve in my shapes. And I think I mentioned as I go along here, the more I do, the more I think I'm going to make this into a brush painting. And I don't think actually I've done a brush painting for a little while. I really enjoy, well, I enjoy both. I like the knife and the brush, but you know, the knife in some ways is more forgiving. The brush in other ways is more forgiving. But through the steps of your painting with the brush, okay, given the style that I like, the technique that I use, etc., etc., I feel it's pretty necessary to get pretty fussy about where you lay your colors. And that's, you know, how tidy you are when you're laying in your colors. That's why I'm using a fairly new little, what is this? Where are you number? It's number 6. If I had a 4, I'd be using a 4 at the moment. There. Those are salmon. No, of course not. But I do want to make sure that I don't get too thick with the paint either. I've did it off with paint thinner, but debris there, debris. You know, when this distant water gets painted in, it's not going to have a whole lot of strokes to it. I don't think, so I'm not going to worry too much about varying the colors within that area. We'll reserve that for the actual painting, not the wash-in. Junk, junk, junk. I'm not worried about making a mess down here. I'm gonna be going over that. I could do one more line across there. Actually, I'll add a little more cobalt blue to it. And then I will. Just to bring it in line with this other land mass. You know, for these lines, these very important lines right in here, I don't usually, but sometimes I will use a straight edge even in my final painting, just to make sure that I get them right. Everything else is loose, but you know, those lines are kind of the datum point, or the benchmark that sets off visually how things look in the painting. And I hate to have something looking kind of askew in the wrong place, you know. Yeah, that's good. Light's from the left, so it's a little darker below it. Okay, I'm really happy with how it's looking so far. Especially the shapes. Really like the shapes. Don't always get that lucky, but this time it worked. Okay, well, you might remember me blithering on about designing your painting in such a way, more so on a large painting. Don't have to do it, but it's going to work out on this painting as well. In such a way that you push the viewer's eye towards the focal area, right? This will be dark a little bit later. Much lighter. A little darker again and lighter. So we have this line cutting the corner off. It's dark, right? Seeing as we're over water, we're going to reflect that general darkness with this island and, you know, a bit of gray in the sky. So that'll tone down this corner and this corner. This line right here already takes care of it. Because the high values will be here, not going to lay a lot of high values back here or high chroma in the background because it's unimportant. That just has to support this and everything else. So that is taken care of. And actually, this is so dark, by the time it gets to the water, this is all going to be dark too. So we've already taken care of these edges on these corners. That's going to make the wash-in easier. I am being very accurate with my wash-in because I'm quite sure I'm going to make this into a brush painting, which what's that, number 7 times I've said that now? 8, 20? I have no idea. A lot of times, maybe 30 times I've said that. Talk to you soon, guys. So I brought the water to this point, and now distance from here to here and here to here is the same. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do below this, but I've left it because the next most important ingredient really is the sky. So what ends up happening with the sky is what will determine what happens down here.